This is the Rich Dad StockCast with Andy Tanner, the show that kicks 401ks in the asphalt and teaches you to be the master of your own stock investing domain. And here's your host, Greg Arthur.
All right, this is Greg Arthur, and today's show is really pretty basic, but if you don't get this part covered, you're pretty much going nowhere and you shouldn't even listen to this podcast. So this show, I don't know the official title, but it's all about how to get started. And I tell you, when I first tried trading, I was baffled. There was all these weird brokerages. In fact, the one I was using is now out of business. So I didn't even know how to pick the right one. I was an idiot. I mean, there's a lot of people who still think I am, but to make this podcast more valuable to more people, we really wanted to teach people how to get started. And that had been in the comments as well. Some people were like, we really want to take Andy's teachings and apply them, but we don't even know how to get started. So with that, Andy Tanner, can you please tell us and the listeners, viewers, just the simple basic how to get started in trading stocks?
Well, there's a lot of ways you could get started. I don't recommend doing it like I did. The best way I could describe how I did it would be ready, fire, aim. And
that's me too.
That's kind of a great way to start a business, actually, but it's not a great way to start investing in stocks. So this will be a great conversation, Rob. I get the same questions all the time. So this will be a great resource for me to guide people to this particular episodes. And they say, hey, I've never done this before. I'm brand new. I'm a beginner level. How do I start? And where would I begin? So this will be a great discussion.
Great.
So the first thing is years and years and years ago, I was in a meeting with my mentor, Robert Kiyosaki, and it was either him or Blair Singer. I think it was Robert. And he had his whiteboard up there, his easel with his flip chart. And he put three important words on it called be, do, have. And let's start with the have and work back into be.
Yeah, that's how Kim actually prefers to do it.
Yeah.
She likes to work backwards through the be.
Yeah. And so generally people come to a podcast like this, or they'll come to my website or wherever they go, they'll pick up a book on investing and they'll say, well, I want to have something. They feel a desire. And that's very important because, Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, said that's number one, is a burning desire, not just a want, but like burning inside, your spirit's on fire. And you say, look, I want to have some things. So let's say we want to have more money in our life. Okay, maybe money lets you buy some things. I'm not really a things person. But the reason I pursue wealth are two more reasons for me anyway. Number three is freedom and just feeling like I'm going to have the ability to take my kids out for an ice cream tomorrow, that I'll be able to feed my family. I think every parent has the desire to say, I'm going to be confident that I can provide something for my kids. And then I like the freedom to not have to work for a boss, and to be able to kind of do my own thing and be able to create my own money, because when you can create your own money, it gives you a little bit more freedom on your time, I think.
Right.
And then finally there's legacy. So I think about what I want to have. Well, obviously, if you visualize that, start thinking about what life could be as opposed to what it is, that gets the engine running, gets the entrepreneurial spirit and your blood pumping. And you say, okay, what do I got to do? And that's where everyone is. And that's the advice culture. And this is how Wall Street got rich.
Okay,
I can tell you want to say something.
Before we get there, I know you're a big cash flow game player. And
yes, huge.
Kids and even the neighbors. But I don't know if you've ever played it with Kim Kiyosaki. She will stop the game and she will make sure that you really took the time to think about your dream. It's the first thing you do in the game. And it's a lot, like you said, some of those dreams are how you can make the world a better place.
Yep.
But some of those dreams are just the freedom to go play golf, to go tour the world. So it's a lot similar, very similar to what you just said.
Philanthropy.
And they put that into the board game, and not just as a, hey, here's a good idea. Like to Kim, she will stop you from doing anything else until you really think about what it is your dream is.
It's funny you said that because, as the years have gone on, they've said, well, how do we innovate? How do we improve things? And some of the feedback from corporate, head type of people.
Right.
They go, well, the dream thing, you don't need that. That doesn't really do much. And Kim's like, that's everything, right? That's the whole reason we do things. So when people want to have something, whether it's the opportunity for philanthropy or a security for feeding their family or freedom to do what they want to do, or maybe some people, there's nothing wrong with wanting some things. It's not my favorite, but if you want to have a Ferrari, if that's your thing, Robert loves his Ferrari. Fantastic. It's what you want as an individual. So people say, what should I do? And that's how Wall Street gets rich. They say, well, we'll tell you what to do. Give your money to us.
Right.
Send it on in and we'll invest it and charge you for it. And so people get really caught up in the do. Well, it would be really nutty for me to do open heart surgery without becoming qualified to do so. And so there is, if you're having to take notes on this, you could write have and what do you want to have, and then do, how do you want to get those things. But the real question is who do we feel we'd like to become to be able to do those things we'd like to do, to have those things we'd like to have. And so I will tell you that for me, and also everyone I've ever met that has been self-made, there is a journey of personal development that you should consider as a track alongside the how do I open a bank account and what brokerage do I choose and blah, blah, blah. We'll get into all that here today. We'll get into all those little choices as we get started. But I would say that is the first thing, is to think about those three things. Who would I like to become? Because if you are not attached to the personal development side and becoming, the do is unlikely to happen and the have is unlikely to happen. People get what they get because of what they do, but they do what they do because of who they are. And so the idea of, like, I'll give you an example that might be really good to help people understand this. In my home country, the United States, the predominant retirement system that people go to work for and put money into is called a 401k. And so they're investing, they're doing investing. My question is, are they investors? I do the very best I can not to call them investors. I call them 401k participants because they are participators. But investor to me denotes a certain level of personal development in terms of knowledge, temperament, and discipline. A Benjamin Graham type intelligent investor, someone who's developed their ability to harness their emotions, someone who's developed the ability to understand fundamentals and educate themselves. Those are the people who are investors. So an investor is not, you don't become an investor by what you do. If I were to put money in the market and invest money in the market without being an investor, I would be doing investing, but I would be a gambler.
Right.
I would not be an investor. So just because I take money and put it in the market, I might be investing. I could do surgery right now. Does that make me a surgeon? I can do dentistry right now. Does that make me a dentist? And so that would be the first thing, is personal development. Anything you want to go further on that, or you want to go next topic?
This is a little off topic, but just because I know you, one of the things you started this was you have to be able to control your emotions in investing. And I need to separate that. There's investing emotions where you do got to be a little maybe cold. But I happen to know you very well. And while you have your cold investing, you're not a cold person. You're one of the more emotional, especially about your family. You're one of the most emotional people I know. So I do want to just be clear, like I guess the media, television, they make it look like all the rich investors are these cold-hearted bastards, right?
No, they're passionate. I mean, Warren Buffett is a passionate, competitive person. Name it, Mark Cuban. You think he's not passionate? These guys are very passionate. But it has been my undoing, is why I'm speaking about it. When I look at the larger losses I've had, I mean, if you look at the ones where, Andy, where did you really hurt yourself by being stupid? There are really only two categories. Either I was screwing around with something that I didn't know about. Okay, I'm investing without becoming, like, let's say I'm doing an advanced options without being an advanced options trader, right? I'm going to get bit. But even more so than that has been when my temperament, where I knew that I wasn't behaving in accordance with my education, that my behavior was out of congruency with my knowledge. And those were really hard lessons. So over the years, I've had to very much learn to work hard to separate the emotions that come. And that never goes away, but being conscious of it really, really helps. So
Absolutely.
You're right. Be driven by your goals. Life should be exciting. Investing should be boring.
That's a good quote.
Yeah. Be passionate about your goals, but have a good temperament. So once a person, decides, okay, I want to be, do, have. The second thing I would recommend is going over their financial statement, is becoming organized and figure out what, I like 8 numbers. I don't know if Robert agreed with these 8, but I like income. I like expenses and your net income or your cash flow in and out or out. And I like assets, liabilities, and net worth. And then I also like credit score, just so you know what other people think of you. You don't need good credit to borrow money for real estate and stuff, but a credit score just lets you know what other people think of you. And then what we call buying power, which is your ability to raise capital institutionally, privately, on a credit card, whatever. And it is your ability to raise capital, your buying power number, that begins to feed the asset column to start the cycle of income. And I cover this in my 4 pillars class for, those who have taken that. This will be a review for them. But you start off with those and you decide, okay, I'm going to have a weekly meeting with myself, or if I have a significant other, with that person. And we're going to look at those 8 numbers and set a goal. Say, all right, next month, what do we want these to look like? Do we want expenses up or down? Do we want income up or down? Do we want assets up or down? Do we want buying power up or down? And we start to think, how do we want to do this? Well, if you choose to fool about with stocks, that's great. We'll start looking at acquiring some assets in equities and the options market. That's great. Once you decide to do that, now it's time to educate yourself, start learning about the asset class, and then also getting yourself set up logistically. Now, I don't want to be a self-promoter. I'd hope people would consider us as part of their education at Rich Dad and at my website. But wherever you get your education, that's an important component. You can't do without knowing, right? We know and then we do. We be, do, and then have. And as far as logistics go, that people put too much emphasis on that. They will say things like, Andy, what brokerage would I use? Well, let me turn that around. I'll ask you a question, Greg. Hey, Greg, what bank do you think I ought to use if I want to be rich? What checking account should I open up if I'd like to become extremely wealthy? Can you recommend which bank will give me a checking account that will make me rich?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that with a question. Yeah. I would tell you, it doesn't matter what bank you use. It's like, who cares? But is that what you're telling me, that it doesn't really matter what brokerage you use? Isn't there some way to gauge reputation? I don't know. Success rates.
Well, wouldn't you think that? Think about that. If Wells Fargo comes out and says, "Look, we've got a bunch of people with money in their checking account. We must be special." You can already tell this. Let me tell you this. What type of pickup truck should I buy?
The cheapest one.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's like, well, some people are Ford, Chevy, but the reality is, if my wife was expecting a baby and her water breaks, I could drive any vehicle with 4 wheels and a steering wheel and be just fine. So it's not the bank that matters. It's your ability to manage your affairs that matters. It's not the car that matters. It's your ability to drive and understand the rules of the road that matters. So pick a brokerage, and if you don't like it, you can change. You close that account, open anotang another. Yes.
Is it that simple? When you set up an account, you click a few buttons, send them a check, and you don't even send checks. I'm so old. Let's click a few buttons and you digitally transfer money over.
Let's pretend that I have accounts with several brokerages. Let's say one of them went out of business.
Okay.
Would I now be worse or better with my skills of trading or lack of skills of trading? No, all the brokerages, which is better, Century 21 or Berkshire Hathaway or Remax, is just a person that all a broker does is do what they tell you to do. Buy this house. Oh, we'll facilitate the transaction. Oh, buy this stock. We'll facilitate the transaction. That's all it is.
Okay. But let's say
people get hung up on it like we are right now. They get hung up.
no. You pick your broker. What do you do though? How do you?
Okay, now that's
you
important. So you pick a broker, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, Schwab, the Interactive Brokers, Options, whatever, Options House, whatever you want. And you pick a broker. It would be very much like opening up a checking account. In the same way you'd open up an online checking account, you go to their website and, name, social security number, identification number, age, there'll be a few questions for them to cover their butt in terms of your experience. There will be, and goals. So that they'll say things like, what type of investing do you want to do? Do you want to grow your money? Do you want to protect your money? Do you want to create income? Do you want to speculate and take a lot of risk? And the best, people always say, what should I say when they ask me this? They'll say, how many years have you traded? Do you have no experience, 0 to 1 year, 1 to 5, 5 to 10? Or they might say, how many trades do you make a year? Traditionally, what's your experience? And people say, well, how should I answer these questions? And I say, well, how about the truth? If you're brand new, then say, I'm brand new. If you've never traded an option, say, I've never traded an option. If you've only done it for a year, then just tell the truth. And they'll give you permissions based on that, on how aggressive you will be in your account. And after you've been, let's say you're a newbie, you trade stock for a few months, then you go to them and say, hey, I think I'm ready to trade some options. I've now traded some stock for a while and I've taken a course. Oh, okay. Well, let's bump you up to the next level of risk and things you're allowed to do. So this is a very minor part of your success. It really is. It's your ability to read the chart and pick the right stock. Think of it this way. If I had a crystal ball that told me where the stocks would go the next day, do you think what brokerage I choose would even freaking matter if I knew what the stocks were going to do?
Right.
So people get way hung up on stuff like this. And if you're struggling in any way, shape, or form with setting up brokerage, call them on the telephone and say, I would like to open a brokerage account. And guess what? They will walk you through that process. They will set you up. They will connect your checking account to your brokerage account so you can send money in there to buy stock. And when the stock goes up, if you sell it, you can send the money back to your bank and go to dinner or supersize your Happy Meal in the drive-thru. It's really simple.
Okay, so there's two things there. One, I didn't realize that they actually, in a way, protect you, because I think of these as big evil entities. But in some ways, they protect you. They don't let you do advanced trading until you've proven to them that you can do the simple trading. Is that?
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't know if they're evil or good. I don't know them that well, but I do know that if they ask me certain questions, and if I go out, like let's say I lie on that. Right. They're not going to check it. They're going to lie. Let's say I've never done this before, but I lie and I say, well, yeah, I've been an options trader for 25 years and I've written, I understand, these high level options. If I go in and blow up my account and I turn around and try to sue them and say, hey, I blew up my account not knowing what I was doing. They'll say, well, you told us in this form that you were an experienced options trader. And apparently you weren't telling the truth, were you?
Right.
So they really do cover themselves.
So I did that when I was really young, right? I was like, yeah, I'm experienced. And then because I was experienced, they let me take out a margin account, which for listeners,
you're trading with borrowed money.
Yeah, they loaned me money basically. So of course I lost everything, right? So I'd have to say definitely answer those questions wisely, because it does help them keep you out of trouble as well as themselves.
So once you're set up with your brokerage account, then you're going to you'll through your education, you'll decide what type of investing you want to be, investing, trading. Usually they say that an investor is someone who wants to own a company and collect a dividend and really invest, like Warren Buffett would be considered an investor. And someone like Jim Simon would be what we call a quant trader, and he'll use quantitative analysis to get in and out quickly. And it just depends. I hate day trading. I've never been a day trader. I've oh, if I've been bored in an airport waiting for a plane, I popped on and had fun, gambling for a while, but in, day trading. But really, I have a good meeting on Monday usually where I set up everything, and we check it once a day for sure. And I have alerts that if something crazy goes on, my phone goes off, says, Andy, this broke a certain level here. You might want to make an adjustment. But I don't like to spend a lot of time on it myself.
Okay, so you mentioned looking at charts and all that. Does the broker provide the charts, or where are you getting these
They
charts?
do. You can. That's a great question. And again,
How?
charts are charts. If I bring up a chart from Ameritrade software and I bring up a chart from TD Ameritrade software or E-Trade software, they're going to have the same quotes and same prices, same candles, week, day to day, minute to minute. So the quotes are the same. There are third-party analysis software which I've used, which I enjoy if it has something I really like in terms of indicators and different, software programs that help you analyze price action. There's websites that I use for fundamental analysis. One of my favorites, I'll give them a plug. They're like $30 a month, but I'll give them a little plug called Finbox that I really like. FIN for financial, Finbox. They have analysis that's searchable and great screeners to find stocks. That's another question for beginner. How do I find stocks? Well, in my 4 pillars of investing class, we say, here's some criteria to start with. Earnings, growth, EBITDA, enterprise value, all these types of metrics. You get those for free on Yahoo Finance, for example. So you can pay for whatever level of data you want. Just depend on how serious you want to be. But for a beginner, that leads into probably the most important thing with software is that it should have a virtual trading mode or paper trading mode. And the best analogy I would give here, guys, is people get enthusiastic. I talked about that emotion. The greed is just wanting a lot for little. The greed is wanting, things to come to you before you put things out. Well, that's not investing. Investing is like a farmer. You put things out, then they come back. So it's a patience thing. And so paper trading is very important. The analogy I'll use is a pilot. There's a great film with Tom Hanks called Apollo 13. And I think it's Gary Sinise that is really the hero because he gets a virus or something, can't go to the moon. So he's on the ground. It's very emotional because once they get in trouble, they realized that really he was the best. He was going to be up there. And once they got in trouble, they realized, whoa, what an asset, because we actually have the best guy down here on the ground.
Right.
And if you remember, what did he do? When they had to figure out a power sequence without blowing things up in the right order, what did they do? He went into a simulator. That's what the cash flow game is. It's a simulation where you can make mistakes. And he would sit in that simulator and they look at the amps. He had to keep it under like 16 amps. And this power sequence would spike the amps and, okay, you just killed everybody. Oh, you just killed everybody. And he practiced and practiced until all of a sudden the needle stayed under whatever amps they needed. And it's like, I think we got it. Let's run through it one more time. I want to be sure. Then they powered it up to the guys up in space and said, we've learned how to do it in a simulation first before real trading. And I just can't emphasize that enough. People say, when will I be able to start trading real money? That's a different question for everybody. How well did you do in the simulation? And then it's not like one day you go from simulation to real. You might have 90% of what you do in the simulator and maybe just make one trade for real and slowly grow your real trades. I know that doesn't sound exciting for someone who wants to get going right now, but if you just relax and go through the process of becoming rather than worrying about doing and having, every time you get upset or nervous or frustrated, say, hey, am I doing or am I becoming? Go back to becoming, you'll be in better shape.
And that goes back to how you started this, that life should be exciting and investing should be boring.
Yeah, absolutely. And get a coach, whether it's one of my coaches at the Cashflow Academy or someone else, get a coach to walk you through your first trades. Don't be an advice person. There's a growth of making mistakes. I have losses just like any investor would. I'd be very uncomfortable with portraying that I never lose because I do. And so will you. So will anyone who does this over an appreciable amount of time. But your education will help you lose less than you would have otherwise, and also help you make some to counterbalance, some of those losses. And if you can get positive in this, then you're going to be, then you start compounding, and off you go.
I got one more, what you're going to call a boring question. It's not very philosophical or anything like this, but when you're picking your broker, do some of them have a minimum amount of money you have to put in?
Yeah, they do. I mean, anymore, their fees have gone to zero for most of them for equity trading, and even their fees for options are down to very, very low commissions. And even the minimum requirements have gone down too. But I would say to get a margin account that lets you, trade on margin, a couple $1,000s in the US is usually about the standard. There's some 500. There's some that'll let you open up your account and get access to the paper trading stuff for nothing, in hopes that you'll learn and deposit someday. That's worth it to them many times.
Right.
And so, but plan on a couple $1,000s. And if you have a couple $1,000s in there, they'll let you trade usually with 4. If you have 2, they'll let you trade with 4. They'll double that up for you. But before you would do something like that, again, it is your knowledge, not your access. One of the critiques I have of the Robinhood type brokerages is they do a wonderful service in giving people access and good platforms and low minimums, and they're very good at access and smoothing out participation. But participation without knowledge, if I were to take my sons to the gun range and we were to target practice, we would have a pretty heavy duty safety talk before we did that. We'd have some training before we just say, hey, yeah, let's just go with loaded guns and guns ablazing. We would have a lot of respect for the risks that are involved in an activity like that, which are, there would be some rules that would be unbreakable, right? And the same is true with your trading. There should be some rules that are simply unbreakable. The last thing I would say is start a trading journal. We have one that people can download that helps you keep track of what you did, how you felt, your reasons for this trade or this investment. If it didn't work out, what happened? Helps you plan your trade out. One of the things you can do to limit losses is plan your trade and say, okay, stocks can go up, down, or sideways. If it goes up, what will I do? If it goes sideways, what will I do? And if it goes down, what will I do? And stick to that. And that can help limit some losses. So in a nutshell, be, do, have. Be is more important. Get a brokerage that is, that you like. It's like picking a bank. What bank do you like? If you don't like it, then you can move to a new one. No harm, no foul. Get some paper trading software to practice, and get your financial statements set so you have goals around that. And just become an investor. Before you try to do investing, become an investor in terms of knowledge. Start to grow your temperament, and get a coach from us or someone else. So there you go.
Well, then to wrap it up, I would say Kim starts with the have. I would say Robert, because he always says you got to know who you are and where you are before you can be investing. He's really the be. And honestly, I want to say you're the do, but you're actually all three. You represent all three of those. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. We, unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of people really do want to know what to do. And so that's what our academy does, but we try to do the do in the context of those bookends of becoming and having, and, get them all three. So thank you, Greg. Thank you for that. Thanks for the great conversation. I hope it was helpful to those who are wanting to dabble in to realize, oh, I can call a brokerage. They'll walk me through how to set this up. Oh, I can take a course. That'll show me how to get started. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from a do standpoint is I didn't know that there were brokerages that would let you paper trade for free. I had no idea.
Yeah, they're out there.
So that's pretty cool. All right, Andy, let's wrap it up, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right,
take care.
Bye.